I'm Angela. I'm a registered dietitian and nutrition instructor at The Ohio State University. Today we're going to talk about if red meat can fit into a healthy dietary pattern. First of all, what is red meat? Red meat is considered beef, pork, lamb, veal, and even game like deer meat. You might have once heard that pork is the other white meat, but actually that's a lie. Pork counts as red meat. So you've heard the dietary guidelines recommendation for us to limit saturated fat to less than 10% of total calories. And red meat is a leading contributor of saturated fat, which is associated with heart disease risk. Perhaps you've also heard recommendations from the American Institute of Cancer Research. They tell us to limit our red meat intake as well because it's been linked to several types of cancer. This might be due to extra calories because obesity definitely ups our risk for cancer, or it also could be some of the way the meat is prepared or processed. The salt and the extra compounds in processed meats might contribute to cancer, and the way we cook it, high heat cooking methods might produce cancer-causing compounds in meats. On the other hand, red meat is a great source of high-quality dietary protein and several vitamins and minerals, vitamin B12, and we get a great bioavailable source of minerals like iron and zinc. Note that the public health recommendations do not tell us to completely eliminate red meat. They just say limit red meat. If we choose lean cuts of meat, we can get the protein, vitamin, and minerals without extra saturated fat. How do you know which meats are lean? Let's look at this T-bone steak. What do you notice? There's some visible fat around the edges of the steak. If you trim off the fat from this meat, you can definitely reduce the amount of fat you consume. And it's best to trim that fat before cooking rather than after cooking. So it's easy to see that trimming the meat will help reduce it, but what about the fat that is in the muscle? See where it's marbled there? That marbling is fat that's inside the muscle tissue. So there's nothing you can do to trim that off. So for heart health, it'd be better to choose a leaner cut with less marbling. Something like this, top sirloin steak, you can see there's a lot less marbling there. The USDA defines lean as less than 10 grams of fat and less than 4.5 grams of saturated fat for a 3.5 ounce serving. That's about the size of the palm of your hand. Extra lean would be less than 5 grams of fat or less than 2 grams of saturated fat. So if you see those words lean or extra lean on the package, you can rest assured that's a pretty healthy cut of meat. But even if you don't see those on the label, you can still look for loin or round in the title. So if you see a cut of meat and it says loin, like top sirloin or round, those are leaner cuts of meat. Cuts of meat like filet mignon, New York strip steak, and T-bone steak, they have a lot more marbling than loin or round. Organ meats like liver, they're pretty high in fat and cholesterol. If you choose those higher fat meats, just choose a smaller portion and only eat those once in a while. One thing you may have noticed, if you're choosing a lean cut of meat, it's not going to be as juicy and tender as a high fat cut. However, you can still end up with a delicious product if you choose a lower heat, slower cooking method, or if you marinate the meat before cooking. What about ground meats? The same rule applies. If you see ground round or ground sirloin, that's made from a lean cut of beef. For comparison, a burger made from regular ground beef, which is usually a mixture of different cuts, that may end up with like 275 calories, 18 grams of fat, 7 grams of saturated fat. Compare that to a leaner cut of meat like a ground sirloin. That's going to save about 100 kilocalories per burger. It's going to take the saturated fat down to 2 grams. Now usually those cuts are a little bit more expensive because they're higher in protein. When you cook ground meats, you have the option to drain some of the fat. Take advantage of this. When you cook burgers, you can set the cooked burgers on a paper towel. It takes out some of the fat. When you brown ground beef for tacos or spaghetti sauce, you can drain the beef before you mix in your other ingredients. You can even rinse that meat under warm running water to remove some of the fat. To sum up, you can include some red meats in your dietary pattern. They shouldn't be something you eat every day. The American Institute for Cancer Research recommends limiting red meat to 12 or 16 ounces per week. That's like 3 portions a week. Most of the time, however, choose skinless poultry, fish, and plant sources of protein. You can certainly get the benefits of red meats if you choose lean cuts and prepare them in healthy ways.